What's up, everyone? It's Logan from Cross Me Out. Today, I'm going to show you how I made the Letterbomb cover. Alright, so the first part of this that I'm going to do is the arranging. So, here I have what I put in Finale. So, when I decided to do this cover, I invited my girlfriend, because this is her favorite song, and so I knew what instruments I was going to do. I didn't bother with drums this time, because meh. So I knew that it was going to be two voices, and then guitar, and then her on viola, and then bass as well. So I just set it up, and the first thing that I did was I just went in and put in everything that I knew already. So I put in the guitar part, which I knew already, as well as the vocals. And we had decided beforehand a little bit about what we were going to do with the vocals. So one thing that's interesting that we did was we split between our voices. So the first part was me, and then the second part was her, and so on. And the other thing we did was we mixed a little bit of the Broadway version of Letterbomb from the American Idiot Broadway musical into here. So, we took the ending from that and stuff. And we had decided on most of that beforehand. So that's what I did first. I didn't bother with the viola or the bass part. I just went through just what I knew already. And there's all that. And here's the section where it goes to the Broadway because all the instruments cut out there and things like that. So the other thing that I did was this ending was actually kind of interesting. So this ending, the voices are doing the same thing from the Broadway musical, but the instruments are actually doing the original ending for the most part. I actually extended it a little bit to make some more voice stuff happen, but so I thought that was interesting. I really just did that for the fun of it. So then what I did was I did some harmony on the vocals during the chorus. So for the chorus, what I did was, for the harmony, because I knew my girlfriend and I's voices were different enough, the first thing I did was doubled the melody. So I have the melody and she has the melody at the same time. And then the other thing I did for backing vocals was I completed the chord. So this is an E chord down to a B. So I just held out that B for the whole time. And then down here it becomes an A chord, so I just have the A there. It's fairly simple, but it sounds pretty cool. And so there, the first time I tried to figure out what those notes were, I figured out these bottom notes and realized that was wrong, and that they were actually the top notes. So I kept the bottom notes as the harmony. I thought that was cool. So the way to interpret this section, I'm singing the main vocal here, and then these double stops I have split hard left and hard right in the for the backing vocals. So then what I went through and did was the viola and bass parts. So the bass part is almost always playing the same rhythm as either the guitar or the viola. So like in the intro, it's playing the same as the guitar. And then here, it's lining up with the viola mostly. But here it's straight quarter notes just to give it a solid beat and whatever. I have it playing the bottom note of the chord. So it's always just the E for these E chords, and then G sharp, and then C sharp, and then A. So for the viola, it's kind of hard to explain. I'm having it play one of the notes in the chord all of the time. So here it's playing the same notes as the bass, and then here it's actually playing the notes from the guitar intro, this E, D sharp, and then E's. And that's because the same chords are going, so it can fit. It becomes a different position in the chord every time, but it sounds really cool to keep it that way. And then most of what I was doing with it was just an effect. So here I wanted this whole section kind of grows in the original song, so I had that where everything cuts out and the viola comes back in and then the bass comes back in right here. And I have some rhythms where it's just playing, like I said, just a note from the chord, either rhythms matching the guitar or holding out notes. We actually changed this to whole notes as well when she came over to record. So then here's the other section that is a little bit interesting. So what's going on in the guitar here is an A chord, and these notes right here are actually open strings. So you're holding out the A chord and you just open your hand and then put it back down right here. So I had both the viola and the bass do the same thing. Whatever note they were playing, you just open your hand and kind of slam into it a little bit for those notes, and then come back onto the same note, onto the new note. So, and then I just had them hold out because it fit, and there's not much going on. The vocals are a bit more important there. So the only other thing I really have to talk about is right here. So this is sort of the second chorus type of thing, almost like a bridge. The song doesn't really follow normal structure. So what is going on in the guitar in the original song is a very high version of the guitar solo that comes in later, very quietly in the background. It's hard to even hear. So I have the viola very quietly playing the guitar solo extremely high up, and as well as a few notes that are just within the chord doing the same rhythm as the guitar solo. And here I actually double tracked guitars. So most of this song has been the guitar in one of the ears and not in the other. So for here, because there's nothing else, there's no viola playing because she was just playing this section, I have both guitars going in separate ears. And then the viola comes back in with the guitar solo again until here. And there's some interesting parts there, but I'll get to that when I talk about the actual session. And here, like I said, this is a Broadway version thing. The vocals drop out. Or not the vocals. The instruments drop out, and she's singing on her own. And then they come in with just these two chords, which are the open strings back to the notes of the chord. And then this section was actually pretty cool. So in the Broadway version, this is another Broadway thing, they have almost like a manual delay. So they have her, the main singer, sing the line, and the backing vocals are half notes ahead of her, or behind her. So it creates this delayed effect. And I did that the same here, and I didn't write it out, but I have me doing another repeat and her doing another repeat as well. And then I have us catch up right here. And right here I don't have it notated, but another Broadway thing is she screams, "Wake up," and I really like that. So the other thing to talk about is the rhythm. So the guitar's notated as straight eighth notes, but I don't actually play that. I play it a bit more interesting. I play more of what the viola has for the rhythm here. And then this is more of just what I felt when I hear the song. This isn't what's actually going on in the song, but I really feel this beat here. Everything switches to straight quarter notes. And having everything on the beat just makes it that much more intense right there. And so then this is the Broadway ending is to hold out the word tonight. And it repeats ear to ear and person to person and whatever with the regular guitar ending behind it. So now I'm going to open up the session in Adobe Audition, and I'll show you a bit about what I did there. Okay, so here we are in Adobe Audition. It's what I use. It's more for podcasting, but it gets the job done. So here we have the whole session, and I'm basically just going to go through this and talk about what's interesting across the timeline, basically. So just starting at the beginning of the song and going on. So the first thing that's interesting is this first section right here of her singing. It's the really mean section where she sings,
"Nobody likes you, everyone left you."
And so the original song has that sound a lot like it's coming through like an old radio or something like that. And I wanted to try and get that sort of sound. So what I did was I actually put a guitar amp simulator on it. I have it compressing way hard, and I have some overdrive on it, and it's going through a guitar cabinet, which really just takes out all of the high end that you're expecting to hear on a vocal. And like I said, makes it sound like it's almost coming through an old radio, and the overdrive makes it sound broken up and stuff. I don't have it mixed all the way in, so that it still sounded natural, but it's interesting. It was fun to find that balance there of the overdrive and using a guitar distortion thing. So then on top of that, it doesn't really apply here, but for these vocals, I just have an EQ to cut out the rumble in the room, like the air conditioning and stuff. I have several compressors, and then I have a delay and a reverb on her voice, and a delay on my voice. Hers, I added the reverb just again to differentiate it, and I think I only bring it in at one section in the song anyway. And then for me, I have this, it's actually free, it's made by Softtube, it's the saturation knob. It's another kind of distortion effect that adds in a lot of grit, basically. And so I have that turned fairly low on my voice just to, like I said before, let it break up a little bit. So then, right here is where the guitar comes in. And this section of the guitar, I have, this is something I got from online. It is guitar cabinet simulation. I chose this one for no particular reason, but I'm already recording my guitar cabinet, so then the added cabinet simulation is what gives it as well that old, like I said, old radio kind of a feel to it, because it's cutting out the high end and the low end even more than it already is with the regular cabinet. So that's where everything else comes in. So here's the viola and the bass is up here. I actually, when I do bass, I record it through my regular guitar amp. I'm going to change up my bass rig at some point when I get some new stuff, but for right now, that's just recorded straight out of my guitar amp. And the viola, you'll see, has 2 tracks. So this one right here, which the only thing it has on it, oh wow, it has a lot, some compressors and then some delay, just to bring it forward a little bit. This is the recorded viola. So this is what this sounds like on its own. So it's not perfect, honestly. I did go through pitch tweak 1 or 2 things, and it doesn't sound quite powerful enough, mostly because it is one singular instrument. So I have this viola sample, which just has reverb on it, and this is a digital instrument from out of Finale. I have the Garriton Personal Orchestra 5, and I mocked up a viola sample for the whole song. and it sounds pretty synthetic, you'll notice. So I went ahead and mixed those together. So this one, because of all its effects, is actually a lot louder than this one, even though they say they're at the same volume. And so it ends up sounding really cool. So if I solo them together, and it just gives the viola a lot more presence, so when the whole rest of the song is playing, you can still hear it and still make it out and stuff, and it gets a lot cooler elsewhere. So then here is where the regular guitar comes in. So the regular guitar has some delay on it. It's so quiet, it might as well not even be there. And then again, I'm just taking out some of that, the sound of the AC and stuff like that. I think I have that on everything here. And that's just straight recorded out of my amp. And right there is where my vocal comes in. I have a little bit of fixing the volume there so it fades in a little bit. I went through what I have on the vocal, and it stays like that for the majority of the song. And then right here is during the chorus where the other two backing vocals come in. So you'll hear almost entirely in one ear is the regular version of the chorus, and then almost entirely in the other ear is the other version of the chorus. So these two have cutting out the rumble. I had to make it more extreme on these ones. Building them up like this, it sounded way too heavy. And then I am bringing them out to a bus where I have some compressors to make the level about right. And then I have some reverb, and it's pretty big, honestly, so it makes it sound really cool and really distant. So here's what that sounds like.
It's not over till you're underground.
So you can hear it has that really long tail and stuff like that, which is really cool. And it's hard to hear depending on what you're listening on while the main vocal is going, but it still backs it up enough. It's not over till you're underground. So there's that, and then like I said, it stays the same for the most part. So then what I have going on here for this second verse type of thing.
Where will all the martyrs go when the virus cures itself?
So I have the guitar going with the extra cab sim on it, so it sounds like it's an old radio. And I have that sort of effect going on her vocals right here too, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I do. Yeah. So I have that same effect going on in her vocals here too. And for the backing vocals, I actually have her singing the same thing, but an octave higher. So it sounds, I don't know, it sounds kind of spooky and really distant. It's kind of weird.
Where will all the martyrs go when the virus cures itself? And where will we all go when it's too late?
Yeah, so right there, that was the next thing I wanted to talk about. It's in the original song, but you can't really hear it. But in the Broadway version, it was fantastic. It's actual screaming. It's just straight screaming. So I have that here, and I believe, yeah, I put that saturation distortion effect on it really high. You can see this light flickering like crazy. And that's what's causing that crazy amount of breakup, and it's me in the left and her in the right ear. And it's pretty audible. I don't know, I loved it so much. It's the reason that I love that song. And I just thought it sounded super cool right there, as well as a pick slide in the guitar. And then, like I said before, right here, you can see I have both guitars, they're playing the same thing. One is pan mostly left, one is pan sort of right. And the misalignment just makes it sound like there are just more people there, basically. And right here, I have it fade from one to the other. It's difficult for me because these two different guitar sounds are a couple of pedals pressed away from each other, so I can't switch immediately from one to the other. So I had to like fade it like that. And the whole band comes in, and that was right here was where that super quiet viola part was. I don't remember if I have extra reverb on top of it. Like it's really quiet, nothing there. To let it sort of just disappear into the background. Versus when she comes in with the guitar solo, I have distortion on it. I put this effect on basically every track, and a lot of delay onto it as well, so that it really pops out at you. And I have it with the samples behind it as well. And when everything is going, it really just pops out at you. Which is really nice. And I have everything sort of get louder there. The samples, and this is pretty loud and everything. There's the section where it says, well, don't look back. And this is another broad thing where they have it repeat in the backing vocals. So I say, well, don't look back, and then she does. And then in each ear is me with, again, this distortion effect applied really hard, screaming, don't look. So it's, well, don't look, and then just screaming it. And it's really quiet and in the background, but I really liked how it sounded. Well, don't look back. You almost can't even tell that it's there. So here's that section where every instrument drops out, and that's where the reverb on her voice comes in. So I have it automated, so it's at 0 the whole time, except for right there when she says, "You're not the Jesus of Suburbia," because it's a very big moment.
You're not the Jesus of Suburbia. The Saint Jimmy is a figment of your father's rage and your mother's love. Made me the idiot America.
And then that last line, because the other instruments come in, I increase the reverb even more, and just to make it really pop out at you. And then it drops back down to 0, and everything goes back to how it normally was when everything else comes back in. So here's where you can see the delay going on. So here is where I start, well, she said, and then even forward, she said. So it's me singing it, and then 2 beats later, she sings it in the center, and then 2 beats later, she sings it in the left ear, and then 2 beats later, I sing it in the right ear. So if I just solo the vocals, you can hear it really well. Well, she said I can't take this place. And it just builds on top of itself. And right here where she says wake up, that's another where I have that distortion going on. So it's really intense right there.
Wake up!
And it really hits the delay, and it really pokes out at you. Well, and that's where everything switches to quarter notes, which you can really see in the viola, and the bass, you can kind of see it as well, until the end, where I have this guitar come back in, and then I have everything drop out right here. Those are those last 2 beats. And I let the viola reverb ring out, and I dropped everything else out because that ringing just really brought it to an end. So I think that's all that I have to say. I actually don't automate effects very much. I noticed. I like writing. I call it like writing as if it's an orchestra, because when you're in an orchestra, you can't change the quality of the room or anything during a performance. The only thing you can really do is play harder, play louder, things like that. So that's everything I put in has some sort of effect to it. And other than that, I don't really change much over the course of the song. And a lot of it is, a lot of the effects that I'm applying are just cutting out some noise and bringing it all to the same level. So that's it. I hope you had a good time. I hope you learned a lot. If you want to listen to Letterbomb, I released it the week before last, so go ahead and watch that. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.